All right, hello, and welcome to today's uh, second stream. It is our IncrediChat today with Jamie Cosley, who's an amazing cartoonist. His work is seen in a few places. I'm going to have him talk about that and tell us all the good stuff about that. So let me bring him on. So it's stream. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. It's going to be a busy day, but I'm excited for it. So, uh, for those who don't know who you are, please just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Jamie Cosley, and I'm a professional cartoonist. You may see my work in Star Wars Insider magazine. I've been with them for the past 3 years. My comic strip, The Light Side, usually appears on page 10 of the magazine. It got the name because the editor of the magazine is a huge fan of Gary Larson. So The Light Side was the title that he came up with. I also do comics for WDW magazine, which is all about Disney parks. And that started out as digital only, and now it is a print. It's a gorgeous magazine. And I can't even remember how many subscribers. It's 17,000, something like that.
I think I have a couple of issues of that myself.
So. Oh, awesome. That's very cool. And then I do lots and lots of picture books, from everything from first-time authors to, established authors. So just all kinds of things.
No, that's great. I mean, I one of the reasons I reached out to you, there were a couple. Number one, I follow you on Facebook and I love your work, and I think it needs to be shared with more people. So it's fantastic. Number two, I want to talk about your Blue Scar that you're going to be coming out with soon, because that looks fantastic. Excuse me. And obviously, what you just mentioned, the WDW magazine and the Star Wars Insider stuff. I mean, you're like in there in the fandom, and I'd love to talk about the picture books too. But I mean, you're like kind of living the dream of geek artists. It's like, oh, you draw for Disney magazine. Are you technically? This is just a question. Are you technically like a Disney artist because that, or is that a separate publication from the Disney property?
Like it's a separate publication.
Okay.
One of the things that when I first started working with them, I thought, it was official. I thought it was like, drawing Mickey and Donald and Goofy, and they said no. And I said, well, who am I going to draw? And they said, you have to come up with your own. But in doing so, I've been able to interview a lot of official Disney artists and kind of get to learn a little more about behind the scenes, about the artists that appear, at Epcot every year. I've always been curious about that.
Yeah.
So through the character Wally D, I ask all the questions that I want to know. How did you get started, and how do you become an official Disney artist?
So Wally D, he's a squirrel, right?
Yeah.
And obviously a play on Walt Disney.
Right.
Which I've looked at the strips that you've done, that you've posted, and I love the stuff. I love your style. It's a very I don't want to call it simple, but that's what it is. It reminds me of this very like cutesy comic strippy style that works. And I was on your website earlier today, and if you want, I can show it in a little bit. I'll share the screen and we can take a look at some of your work. Okay. But yeah, I mean, like, I was going to ask you some of the characters. Are your own creation, or these things that you've done for other people? So, like, I'm just looking at it on my second screen right here, and I see Zucchini the Snowman.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you about him. And you got, what is it, Cody the Cavalier, and it's like these great little like kid-friendly, family-friendly stuff that just looks fun. Now, I assume you're a big Disney fan because you work for them. You have a shirt on. I have a shirt on. We're Disney geeks. Are you a Disney geek like me?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I love Mickey and Donald and Goofy and I love the parks, love the comics, the movies, everything. I'm huge.
I'm the same way. Do you go to the parks often?
We used to go quite a bit. And of course, now with everything the way it is, we're wondering, when we'll go back. It's funny, right before all of this hit, I took a trip. This would have been early March. I took a trip and I met with a friend of mine, Joe Kaminsky, who's a Disney artist. His work is sold at the parks and on the cruise lines, and so we had been talking, and it looked like maybe some opportunities were going to open up, but then the world changed, and now I don't know what's going on. So
I was actually in there. I was down in Disney a week before all this started, like before the quarantine, or maybe a week and a half before all that. It was very interesting, because there were people trying to be safe still, but like nobody really cared at that point. But yeah, it was. It was a fun time. I'm glad I had that opportunity because we just canceled our August trip. We had a trip planned for August. I'm not flying down. I'm not driving down, and I've been following what the parks are planning to do and what's not going to be open, and so I'm like, it's not going to be fun for me.
I know.
To go down, with that. So I'm hoping that that by next year this time we can have a trip.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for that. But yeah, no, like you, I'm a Disney geek and everything. We watch the movies. I'm like on Disney Plus all the time. And it's, since we've been in here, it's been my favorite streaming service.
Yeah, all the old school cartoons. That's my favorite.
Those are mine too. Let me know, what's your favorite old school cartoon, whether movie or short? Do you have one?
Well, I love, my favorite character has always been Goofy.
Okay.
And I'm a huge fan of both of the Goofy movies with he and his son Max.
Yeah.
I have a huge collection of Super Goof comics that Whitman and Gold Key used to put out.
A couple of those myself.
I think I've got half the run. I'm missing because there's a lot of them that are really, really rare.
Yeah.
And tough to get. And like I found them on eBay, but I don't want to pay.
Oh, I know. I've looked myself. I have about 4 or 5 of them, I think, in my boxes.
Yeah. I love those. So Goofy has definitely always been a favorite. And then I love what they've done with the most recent version of Mickey in the little shorts.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, my daughter and I, we love. They're just so funny. Like Goofy is really funny in those.
Oh, I agree, but I feel a lot of people complain about his design these days. How do you feel about his design?
I mean, I think it works with the entire show.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one where he's reading from this manual. It's the one where they go underwater and they're looking and they come upon the Kraken, I think it is.
Yeah.
Of course, he's not paying attention, so he's reading this. It's all this technical jargon, and he's like, the language of love, and his. I was just rolling. I'm like, this is so funny. Whoever's voicing him now has really captured his essence, I think.
It's fantastic. Hold on. Sorry, my throat's a little dry today. Sip of water. Oh God. Anyway, so before we get on to the rest of your stuff, I have to ask.
Okay.
The Christmas tree in the back.
Yes.
Can you explain it?
Yes. We are huge fans of Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And every year my wife has about 3 trees throughout the house. And of course, when you decorate them, as you can imagine, they're loaded with Disney and Peanuts and He-Man. And so every year when it's time to take that down, everyone gets really, really sad.
Yeah.
And so Christy just decided to have one tree.
Mm-hmm.
and just we keep it up all year long, and she decorates it like I think right now it might be decorated for someone's birthday.
Okay.
When we get into July, which is when we always take our beach trip, it'll be like little beach balls and little pails, and so it's up all year long. And she does an Easter tree. She'll do a back to school tree, and we just love it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm just pulling up a piece of artwork here because I want to get to your website in a minute. Do you mind if we go? Actually, I also pulled up your Instagram, but first, do you mind if we go to your website?
Oh, not at all.
Okay. Let me share the screen here. Come on, share screen. Wow. Okay. So I was looking at your website, and up here, this is Zucchini the Snowman, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about Zucchini?
Yes, definitely. I personally feel like this is the best idea that I've come up with.
Okay.
I wanted to do a book for my daughter, and I wanted to do a snowman book, but I didn't want to do a traditional carrot nose. That's kind of how it started.
Okay.
And so I drew this little character, and then I came up with the story. And it's really the only picture book that I've handled both the writing and the art.
Okay.
And the story is a little girl that she saves a snowball in her freezer. And when spring rolls around and her father's outside working in the garden, she plants this snowball, and it turns out that the garden is magical. So zucchini comes to life. It is very, very simple, but my son and I, we kind of planned out this entire series of different snow people, and they all have different vegetable noses.
That's clever.
So we've done marinara, which has a big tomato nose. We've done pumpkin, and right now I'm working on Colby onion, which is really, really super cute. And so I'm really excited about that. I was hoping to have it out this year, but it might be early next year.
And you self-publish, or do you go through a publisher with these?
The very first Zucchini the Snowman was with a publisher. It was a small publisher out of Texas, and they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
But the response was so good that I took it back. I wanted to have all control over it. So I just publish using the Create Space or Amazon, or it might be called something different now. And then I go to schools, and I have a little form, and it'll have the books, and I'll pre-sell the books, and then I'll just print, whatever I sell, and then take them to the school visit.
Actually, I do want to talk to you in a bit about the schools and the school visits you do, because I think that's really cool, and it's actually something I do. So I'd love to just hear how you got started. But I want to look at your art first.
Okay.
And I'm just pulling up some more stuff. Now, we got a comment from Damon Murphy. This is streaming both on Facebook and YouTube. This is from YouTube. He says, congrats on the new Blue Scar book. Best of luck on the launch. Definitely going to get to that, because I am going to be pre-ordering that myself when I saw you mention pre-order. So that is...
thank you.
I just want to ask you a question, because at some point we're going to, an artist or an art student's going to ask this question. Is your work all digital? And if so, what program are you using to draw in?
Okay. Yeah, I do get that question quite a bit. I still work with traditional tools as far as the actual drawing. Believe it or not, I even, whether it's comic books, picture books, comic strips, I get regular typing paper from Target.
Yeah.
And I use pencil, and I use a Pentel pocket brush pen.
Okay.
But then I scan everything in and color everything in Photoshop. and I build it. Like if you see it, there's several layers.
Yeah.
I might take a giant drawing and then squish it down and place it or flip it. I did that a lot with Blue Scar, because we wanted it to be very dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of, I mean, the whole thing is an homage to many different cartoons, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because I know I can probably talk to you about one quite a bit from where I think it originated from. Okay, I'm pulling up some more art. So no, I think that's great because actually I'm very similar to you, but sometimes I don't ink traditionally. I work on basic photocopy typewriting paper. I do my sketches, I scan them in, and sometimes if they're multi-panel, I'll just lay them out, and then I can digitally ink them myself, and I do it that way. So it's kind of cool. I like the stuff you got here. This is a nice. Hold on, excuse me. This piece right here, I like the simplicity. The limited backgrounds that you're doing. Obviously, this is a religious piece, Baby Jesus here.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of work, like religious work, or you like for whatever book publishers or churches or things like that? Or
Well, this was actually interesting. That whole piece came about. I illustrated an entire picture book for Mac Powell. Mac Powell is best known as the lead singer for the group Third Day.
Okay.
And he and I met a couple of times, and I did the whole book for him. It was based on one of his songs, and then after a few months, something happened. He got really busy, and then they did like a farewell tour. And he said, I just don't know when it's going to come out. And I said, well, if it's all right with you, I'll just take the artwork and I'll, put out my own story, Christmas story. And he was very cool about that. And so it was intended to be something else.
Mm-hmm.
But we did it. It became Baby Boy Little King. My friend James Hargrove wrote a wonderful story. We did it completely backwards because I said, here's all the artwork I have that I did. Can you take it and put a story to it? So usually you get the story and then you draw it. But he just did a fantastic job. So Baby Boy Little King came out, and we sold a few. Actually, my local Hallmark store sold quite a few of those, and Zucchini. So that was kind of neat having it in there at Hallmark.
Yeah. And what's your age group for the books you do? This really looks kid friendly, but are you targeting like really young kids, or what age is your target for these things?
I think most of my books are for K through third.
Okay.
Usually fourth, fifth, and sixth graders, they're going to gravitate more towards, like Blue Scar or something like that. So I'd say definitely like the little kids, especially when they go to kindergarten and they see how I draw Darth Vader, they always laugh and say, "That's baby Darth Vader. That's not the real Darth Vader."
There's actually, I think, one on your Instagram page that we'll take a look at some point. No, that's cool because I like I said, it's this very nice comic strip feel. Who were some of your comic influences that, I don't want to say that helped develop your style, but maybe just got you into art, or or what got you saying, I want to make comics? Like, what was that all about in your life?
Well, I've always been a huge fan of Beetle Bailey, and specifically the little dog that belonged to Sarge.
Otto, right?
Yeah, Otto. I thought Otto was great, and I always him as a kid. And I loved Garfield. I loved Popeye and Mickey Mouse. And I have like piles and piles. I think I finally got rid of them, but I used to clip all my favorite comic strips, and I would keep them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you remember Jim Davis did U.S. Acres?
I loved U.S. Acres.
Yeah. So I had a whole collection of those that I had kept because I was a huge fan of. I like that more than Garfield.
I felt the same way.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of started with comic strips and then comic books, and then when I was a little older and I went to the comic shops, then I discovered like independent books, and I'm like, whoa, what are these? You know.
Yeah.
Then all the Eclipse stuff like Bean World and Scout and Kits and Cats and all this crazy stuff. When I was little, I was like, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
And you know, so it's just and it all blends together. Like I think if you see the influences, it's not just the comic strips or the comic books, but it's Hanna-Barbera, everything that they did. And even growing up, I knew you could look at the art and stories and say, okay, well, this isn't as sophisticated as Disney, but oh my gosh, how fun is this?
Yeah.
You know, and I've always been a huge fan of those things. And I think all of that works together to become my style.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Let's just show a Wally D comic. It's called Nuts for Disney.
Yep.
And I'm gonna just enlarge. I'm gonna take us both off the screen for a moment.
Okay.
So I can enlarge it so the viewers can see it. I'm not gonna read it, but I'll give them the screen for a moment. And while we're looking at it, now you said you draw all on like photocopy paper.
Yep.
So all these are basically spot illustrations on photocopy paper that you scan in and just kind of place where they belong, right?
That's right. Yep.
So okay. So so we got a very similar working method. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I didn't know too many people who do that. And I love the design of Wally. So he's you know, looking at him, he's basically just got a yellow shirt on and sneakers, and that's like a newsboy cap type of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. The T-shirt is an homage to Charlie Brown minus the
stripe. Yeah.
Because you know, obviously Charles Schultz is a huge influence, and then the hat, which I always call a pappy hat.
Okay.
That was for my son because when he was little, he was known for wearing this little pappy hat everywhere, like every convention we went to. That was kind of his trademark. So that's why Wally wears that.
No, that's great. I love how they influence him. You know, I kind of wish you were on my stream with me last night. Last night I didn't have anyone on, so it was just me talking, like I said. And I think I told you before we went on stage, before I went live. And I pulled out my Peanuts books, my Beetle Bailey, my Hagar the Horrible. I was talking about how they all influenced me. I did some drawing on my Cintiq and talking about stuff while I was drawing. And it was just like, it would have been great just to hear feedback and you know, or just have a conversation with you while all that was going on. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun time right there.
I spoke about Disney, and I did tons of stuff. Hanna-Barbera was a big thing. I'm a huge Hanna-Barbera fan. So that's well, is there any other work on your site here we can show? Or
I think if you go to art, there's one section where you can see some more Star Wars.
We got portfolio and Star Wars. Which would you like me to do?
You can look at the Star Wars.
Okay, Star Wars. So, by the way, first, here is the Darth Vader you draw, right? That everyone says is baby Darth Vader.
Yep, that's him.
I love it. You know, I love how you simplified his body, kind of gave him, you know, almost, you know, his belt is very much like almost like a Batman utility belt.
Right.
But you removed all the detail, those little annoying lines, the little I don't even know what they call it, the like the crotch plate that comes down over. Like you remove some things in it, but it's just it's fun and it works. You know, I love it.
Thank you.
Now you have some, you know, kind of going more realistic. version, these are sketch cards you've done. So you do sketch cards for certain companies, or?
Yep, I have mainly worked with Topps.
Okay.
And that was actually Topps is kind of how I got my foot in the door with Star Wars Insider magazine. So yeah, they have to be more photorealistic, more comic book. There are some artists that do just, I mean, it looks just like a photo. They probably spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours per card, and I've never done that. You know, might spend an hour on a card, but not 4 to 6. Some of them are just, you know, really gorgeous. So I try to keep somewhat of a cartoony aspect to it with the brush line, but it just, you know, just depends.
And when you color these look like colored pencil. Is that correct?
Yep, colored pencil. Sometimes I'll lay down a base with a Copic marker or Prismacolor or something like that, but then I use colored pencils.
All right, let's go on to here. This is just more of that. I'm liking these a lot.
Thank you.
And here's the light side.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So they hired you, and they technically created the name, but
yep. I forgot what my suggestion was. It wasn't very good, but I had a suggestion, and then the funny thing is, the one at the very top is one of the very first gags that I pitched.
Okay.
But the whole thing started. I actually wrote the editor, and I said I would love to do some spot illustrations. You know, I'm currently working for Topps, or if you'd be interested in a comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly did not expect a response.
Mm-hmm.
But he responded and he said, "Comic strip, I'd like to see what you have in mind." And I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything prepared. I was in the middle of a picture book, so I spent the entire next 2 days just writing and drawing. And so I pitched these ideas. And the very first one, it shows this photographer, and of course you see Wicket, and you see BB-8, Yoda, and then you see the Rancor monster.
Yeah.
And so the photographer says, "You know, I'm so sorry. Today we're only shooting photos for super cute Star Wars characters. You'll have to bring your monster back on Thursday."
Mm-hmm.
And so he's screaming. He's like, "You're the only monster I see." And Rancor's crying because he feels like he's cute too.
Yeah.
So and then there were so this went back and forth for an entire year, and I had almost given up. I was like, well, I guess it's not going to happen. And so I sent an email to the editor, and I just want to know, I said, did anyone from Lucasfilm ever see it? Did they comment? Did they like it? And he says, oh, yeah, it's starting in the April issue. This was April of 2017.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? So I ended up going to Star Wars Celebration that year, and I got to sign at the Star Wars Insider booth, and I've been with them ever since. So 3 years. And
is that a monthly publication, or?
It's basically monthly. I think it might be, maybe 1 or 2 issues shy of a full year of monthlies. But yeah, it was just Jonathan really liked what I was doing, and there's only been a couple of times where I've had to change something because I think they're saying, the characters are cute and they're squishy, but you still have to write them as they are in the movies and in the shows.
Yeah.
So it's just been a blast. It's truly a blessing to be able to work on these characters, and my hope is that one day it'll be collected. But even if not, I mean, that's fine.
Let me ask you. So, I'm assuming you're a big Star Wars fan, right?
Yes.
Is that like your favorite science fiction, and or do you have others that you enjoy, or like more than Star Wars, but you just have a passion for it because it's so ingrained into the culture?
I think it's a little of all those things. I think Star Wars is definitely, as a kid, I can remember um, being in the theater and being scared of Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh my gosh, it's so creepy. But then I was him for Halloween. So, um, you know, I've always loved that character more than any of them. And I like other science fiction movies, but nothing ever grabbed me the way Star Wars did. I mean,
Yeah. No, I get you. I know a lot of people who are that way. I'm one of those people who actually kind of left the love of Star Wars behind just a little bit. I still love it, but it's not my go-to stuff anymore. But it's fun. I mean, and when I see your stuff and your little Darth Vader stuff, I honestly I get a little excited. Like when I see things like that, when it's the typical things, it doesn't interest me. But when I see a new twist on something, especially art-wise,
yeah,
I'm like, oh, now that's cool. Now that's what I want to see. When are they going to give me a Star Wars comic or a Star Wars animated, silly show with, featuring a look like that?
yeah.
So if you guys over there in Disney are watching,
Yes.
you need to reach out to Jamie here. Wonders for you. So yeah, we're gonna go back onto the screen here, but I want to make sure I'm set up. So yeah, let's bring up your Instagram and talk a little bit about the artwork that we see in there. So let's give it the whole screen again. So we're looking at, whoops, wrong. I'm trying to click it on this screen. I got to go to the real screen, and that it's on. So we're going to be looking at here Blue Scar. And hold on, since I didn't like it yet. There we go. So what inspired Blue Scar? This is your upcoming book.
Yes. Blue Scar is definitely an homage to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Okay.
The character, I've had the character for a while. If going back a couple of years, you can see some variation of him. We basically had that look, but his helmet was ridiculous. It was way too much. It had like these dragon wings, and there was a dragon on top, and all these bells and whistles. And I'm like, I'll never be able to draw this the same way every time. So I just gave him a Hagar Viking helmet, and
it works though.
Yeah.
See, I actually, just by the name of it, I really thought you were like parodying Black Star, which came before He-Man.
Yeah.
And even though He-Man was great, I actually preferred Black Star to He-Man. It was just
it's definitely Black Star, Brave Star. More importantly, it's Filmation.
Yeah.
It's a love letter to Filmation, and there's a lot of the names that you're going to hear in the Blue Scar the Barbarian comic book are homages to the writers, to some of the voice actors.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of Easter eggs in there for people that love Filmation.
That's fantastic. I'm a huge Filmation fan myself. I mean, in my closet over there, I even have Space Sentinels and the original Ghostbusters and Hero High is in my closet there. Like I love the Filmation stuff.
Cool.
So it was highly inspired by your childhood Filmation, things like Black Star, He-Man, Brave Star. All three shows are classic Filmation, and probably I wouldn't say Black Star is, but He-Man and Brave Star are definitely some of their iconic shows, He-Man being their most popular.
Yes.
And
also Thundar.
Thundar the Barbarian. And all them go back into Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars changed the entertainment culture, and everyone had to have some kind of magic sword. Like He-Man had a magic sword, Thundar had the flaming sword. They all needed some kind of animal pet or whatever, like Chewbacca type of thing, or a robot with them. Blue Scar, does he? Well, tell me a little bit about his creation. I don't want you to give away the story,
Okay.
but when you created him and you wrote the story, were you going into that sci-fi fantasy world where it's like machines with magic, or is this more like back to like Conan and he's just a barbarian?
Oh, it's definitely swords and sorcery. And my mindset is always thinking in terms of gags because a lot of what I do is gag cartoons.
Yeah.
But my son Tyler is very, very good at sitting down and just planning out these stories with the beginning, middle, and the end, and he really keeps me on task, because I'll go off on a tangent and he's like, Dad, we can't do that because then we're going to write ourselves into a corner. We need to, and he's like, this is what I think we should do. And so he has taken like all these characters that I've had and he's basically put them into Blue Star as if it were an animated cartoon. So we actually end the first issue introducing a character that is going to be basically the bulk of the story for issue 2, and I'm really excited about that.
So, is your son your writing partner, or he?
Yep, he is. He is definitely. He has written books on his own. He has written graphic novels. His first one he did was Ninja Squirrel when he was 11. It took him 2 years to write and draw this story. He would come home from school and he would finish his homework, and then he would draw, a page or two. And I told him, I said, if you keep this up, when it's done, I'll pay to have copies made. Because with print on demand, it's easy to do. And I think he in 2 years he did 120 some pages.
Wow.
And so he's always had this. Matter of fact, with Blue Scar, I had to keep telling him because he just kept writing, and I said, look, I want to do a comic book. I want it to be. I don't want to do a graphic novel. He's like, so we had to whittle it down. Like it's 27 pages, but it was like 40. So we took out some scenes that are going to be into either the second or the third issues as a separate story. So he's definitely he's my writing partner, and I come up with a lot of the names and the silly jokes that you see. You'll go, well, that's Jamie. But as far as the overall story, like every character that you meet is important, even if it seems like they're insignificant. They have a role. He's already got it all planned out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We got a comment here from Victor Romero. He says, on the subject of He-Man, are either of the upcoming Netflix shows going to be continuations or anything related to the original Filmation? They're revamping. Kevin Smith's in charge of it, correct? Or
yes, I did read that. Yes.
I don't know much about it. I haven't read much on it, but from what I understand, it's supposed to be a continuation from where the series left off. Have you heard anything else on the topic?
That's all I've heard. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait.
I am too. So let me ask you. I'm going through your Instagram. Who's Hutch here?
Hutch is a comic strip. It's a weekly comic strip I do for Business of Furniture magazine.
Okay.
And Hutch actually is a writer for a magazine that writes about the office furniture industry. So it's topical humor related to something as boring as bariatric seating.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in sales for many years, and I did this comic strip, and then some of the people that worked at this magazine left and started their own magazine, and they brought me with them.
Okay.
And so he appears every month in Business of Furniture, and then every week, and then every month there's one called Pride in Your Work, which has a character called Business Lion, which is very similar to that.
Okay, so because I was going to ask you, how do you write for like a business/furniture magazine? I was going to ask what your background is, because that I would think that's a hard thing to write about.
Well, it was definitely, working in sales. I never considered myself to be a great salesman because I wasn't very passionate about furniture. But now I look back and I'm like, I can stand in front of an entire room full of people and I can sell my cartoons. So all of that was like training, I think, to help me become a better cartoonist.
Yeah.
So it was, a lot of times it started out like, okay, what are some subjects that you want to talk about? And then I'd have to research it. Like, if it's modular panels or task lighting, and you can do all this stuff, and then you can just come up with some silly gags. Of course, a lot of what I've done lately has all been about the quarantining because, everybody's working out of their homes now, and so for several weeks it was Hutch at home with his with his calming goat Reuben. It was just kind of their adventures, but a lot of it is topical. And I would just, if I didn't know what it was, I'd just research it and then try to write something funny about it.
Yeah. The picture I currently have on screen is a T-shirt you made, right? You make your own T-shirts.
Yes.
Who is this character? I love this. I love this guy.
That is Spitfire Space Cricket.
There's a space cricket. Okay.
Spitfire Space Cricket, and I actually have drawn a comic book with Art Baltazar, who does Tiny Titans and Superman. We actually wrote it and drew it, and when he can, he's coloring it. So I haven't really said too much about it because he's so busy, as you can imagine. I mean, he's got so much going on, but one day we're going to release that, and I can't wait for people to see it.
That's great. That's great. It's got a lot of fun. There's another Wally D.
Yep.
Let's just look. Another Darth Vader with the child. Fantastic. What's his name? What was his name?
That's Balance.
Yeah. I'm bad with that stuff, but
and he was before. A lot of people say, "Oh, he copied Terminator." That was long before Terminator.
He didn't appear in the movie, but he appeared in the comics, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Another Blue Scar. I'm sorry. When is Blue Scar? You said there's going to be pre-orders. I saw. When does the pre-orders go in?
Pre-orders will go live next week.
Okay.
And I decided not to do a traditional like Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign. I just don't think I'm ready to. Number one, number two, I don't think that I have the following that would, require something like that. So I thought, well, I'll still set it up as, like tiers, because you can just order the comic book, or you can get a comic book and a drawing, or a comic book, a drawing, and some other item. So we're gonna do that and we're gonna collect as many orders as we can, and then we're gonna print them and ship them out July 25th. That's the goal. Okay. The book was finished last week. Now we're just doing minor edits. But it took me just under 6 months to complete.
Okay. And you said it was a 27-page book?
27-page story, and I've got about probably 6 pages of pinups, one of which I received Thursday night, I think, by Mike Kunkel, of course, who does Hero Bear and the Kid, and it's just, oh my gosh, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I saw that was up further up on the Instagram there. I was looking at it. This, I gotta say, when I saw you do this, I loved it. You took the Squadron Supreme and made them all animals.
Yeah.
How did you, when you did this, how did you figure out which character is going to be what kind of animal?
That credit goes to Shannon Weathers, who commissioned me. Mm-hmm. He is a huge Captain Carrot fan, just like me, and I'm
Yeah, me too. And we interviewed Scott Shaw about a month or so ago, who was the co-creator of Captain Carrot. Yeah,
love him. Got to have breakfast with him a couple years ago at Heroes Con, and
that's great.
tell him how much he's influenced me. Love him to death. Yeah, Shannon said, "All right, I want Super Squirrel is this guy, and Batmouse is this guy," and he went through and I said, "All right, this is a huge order," but that piece has, I mean, when he started sharing it, I gained so many followers because so many people love Captain Carrot. I mean,
yeah,
still, the original, not what they've done.
No, I agree. I have behind me the what do they call it? The DC Showcase, the black and white of the collection of all that.
Oh, yeah.
I'll flip through that every now and then because I like, even though I like the color stuff, looking at it black and white, you just see it in a totally different light, and and it's so cool to look at that way.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just scrolling through some of your work here, see if there's so that's the onion you were talking about, Paul B. Onion.
That's Paul B. Now I'm excited. I'm about a quarter of a way through it. I'm really taking my time with it. It was written by Laura Wilcox, and it's a really cute story. It's fun to me. I always wanted to have lots and lots of snow people, but I wanted to have guest authors. Like my mom wrote one, my son, my friend James. So we'll continue that.
Okay, now this right here, everyone knows. I think right now, Scoob recently premiered, and Blue Falcon is a major player in that movie. But this is the original Blue Falcon.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of Did you watch the Scoob movie? Did you like how the new Blue Falcon was portrayed?
Yeah, I love all of the little Easter eggs in that movie. When they entered the carnival in that one arcade, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I loved Captain Caveman. I thought the what was it, Tracy Morgan.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious. I thought he was perfect.
He was my favorite part of the film, to be honest. I've always been a big Captain Caveman fan.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And I saw next to this is one of my favorite cartoons. This is adorable. How do you not love Fievel? I'm turning and I'm looking. They were doing the Don Bluth and his partners and stuff were trying to do a Kickstarter at one point, or an Indiegogo, whatever it was, for bringing back Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
I contributed to it, and they sent me an autographed picture of Fievel. And it's hanging above my drawing table. And I'm just sitting there, as I saw, I just turned. And,
that's awesome.
And looked, I loved it. I love it so much. But yeah, I mean, The American Tale was such a classic. And your art, that's a great Tom Hanks there.
Thank you.
Your art, though, is a great throwback in this cutesy kid, younger kid audience. You know what I mean?
Right.
So obviously Aristocats here. I'm blanking on her name at the moment.
Marie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the beef, and is that the beef from the Disney cartoon too?
Yep.
I need to Dumbo and Timothy there. Let me scroll down and pull out so I can just see. I don't want to pull stuff. You got a super goof.
Yeah.
I mean, you got this is a light side. So that's one of the stories.
That was the Mandalorian. I got to draw Baby Yoda.
That's cool. How do you like the Mandalorian?
Oh my gosh, that is definitely the way it should be done.
I agree.
Everybody that worked on that, from Dave Filoni to Bryce Howard to I'm not going to say his name, because I'm afraid I'll say it wrong. But the guy that directed Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was just amazing.
Can I just want to share this, and I've shared this on the stream before, but I thought you'd get a kick out of this. Now, I told you I'm not a big Star Wars fan anymore, right? I went down to Disney World, I told you, right before this whole quarantine stuff started, and I'll just remove this from the stream for a second. And what happened was, I go down and we get to Galaxy's Edge, and my wife's like, "You're gonna love." I'm like, what is it? Star Wars. I'm not a big Star Wars fan anymore. She brings me right to the Millennium Falcon, and my mouth dropped. And I'm standing there, and I literally started crying a little. I teared up. And she's like, "Come on, you want to go?" I'm like, "No," and I just stood there literally for like 15, 20 minutes, just like, and kind of wiping tears out, because it was like my childhood dream. And the day before that, the one thing I always buy when I go to Disney World, it's my one little gift, is a new phone cover. All right. And I bought this Mickey Mouse one that I really, really liked. And I turned to my wife afterwards, after like into, and I think I bought the wrong phone cover, and I had to go back and buy another one. And I went,
oh yeah.
I'm like, I need that. That was it had such an impact on me, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome.
I went on the rides and stuff, which I'm sure you've been on since you've been to Disney a lot too.
I never got to go to Galaxy's Edge. I've never been, and I'm really sad about that, because I was going to, but I've been enough.
I will. Here's what I'll tell you, because I'm not going to spoil anything. Smuggler's Run is just incredibly fun, as long as you can get a pilot's seat. That's how I feel. And the Rise of the Resistance is a fun ride, but I'm more into the classic Star Wars than the new stuff. That it was a fun experience, and unless I'm with people who've never experienced, I probably don't have to do it again. But it is super immersive, interactive Star Wars that, like, if you're a fan, you want to do this. Right. So that was it for me. Let's just go back to your artwork for a few more minutes. And want to look, because there's a super goof we were talking about who gets his superpowers from, obviously, right?
Yep, eating a super goober.
So that stuff is great. Next up, this is Wild Bill, right? Or
Pecos Bill.
Pecos Bill, sorry, that's what I meant. Pecos Bill. Then you got Dopey and Roger Rabbit. Ooh, that's a great Roger. I don't know who's coming up. Mickey, you got Smee there, and Scamp, and you got all these great characters in here. I gotta see your Batman you got here. Love it. Love it. You know who you haven't done though and I would love to see it, because it's my favorite Disney short.
What?
Lambert the Sheepish Lion.
Oh, okay. I'll have to do that.
He is my all-time favorite Disney short. I thought it was hysterical. The stork's like, "Well, I'm not going to fight you. Just see you later," and walks away. So this is great stuff here. You got some DuckTales. Scrooge is my all-time favorite character. And you got Mr. Toad right next to him here.
Oh, yes, I love Mr. Toad.
This is great. Yeah, now, I can sit and look at your artwork and I'm not gonna lie. I'll go through Instagram some days, and I'll just be like, "Oh, there's really nothing good," and I'll check out some of my favorite artists, and you're one of the pages I go on. And I just look at your work.
Thank you.
So you got Cable. That's fantastic. And your Superman's great. See, now this right here.
Yeah.
My all-time favorite Filmation character.
Yeah, I have the action figure still from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But he's the only one I have. I thought I had like one of those
the Trobbit?
The Trobbit. I thought I had one. So I'm looking on eBay. That's going to be my next purchase, I think, trying to get some of those figures. But yeah, I mean, what a cool cartoon.
Yeah, that was great. I have a Trobbit. I don't know where my Black Star is. I had that Black Star that used to spark. You'd spin the thing on his back, and the star area would spark up. This is great stuff. Yeah, we're kind of coming to an end on here, because I can sit and look at your work all day and ask you questions. I mean, I'm serious. Like, I'm looking here and I see this is obviously a page from your story, or at least something that you're kind of playing with ideas on.
Yep.
Was this a regular 8.5 by 11 that you scanned in?
Well, this actually, Blue Star is kind of strange. Because we did so much editing, there are some traditional Blue Star pages that are 11 by 17.
Okay.
But a lot of them are just almost like if you were putting together a quilt and you had like a little piece here and a little piece here and a little piece there. Because there was one day where I would just draw like, 50 scenes of him with his sword in different poses.
Yeah.
And we look at them and go, oh, this is cool, or this is cool. But then there are some full pages. Like that one actually, that one has been cropped. Like some of those scenes are gone now because we took out, that was one of the villains that we took out. We decided to save him for another story. We wanted to focus mainly on Blue Star and Crimson, who is the main villain. Crimson is basically Skeletor, Aku, and I'm just having a blank. Darth Vader, because actually the second page of
right here, right?
Yeah, that's Crimson. The
Okay.
second page of the book is an homage to the very first time you see Darth Vader in the original Star Wars.
Okay. That's great. That is great.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll be honest, I am super excited for this to come out.
Well, I hope you dig it, man. I have put a lot of time into it. It's silly. It's the first issue is like I said, 27 pages. There's a lot of action in it, but the stuff that Tyler has come up with, like the characters and how they, I just can't wait to. I hope we get to tell all of it.
Let me put up your social. I don't know if I did that yet, but at Jamie Cosley, this is his Instagram. Is there any? Is this for anything else? Do you have any other social media where this is?
I'm on Twitter, and it's the same handle, Jamie Cosley. It says Jedi Cartoonist, and then I'm on Facebook. I try to hit all three of those, especially when we put up the storefront. I'll link that to everything, and yeah, I post pretty much every day, and I'm looking forward to kind of plotting out the next Blue Star.
That's great. We have like technically about 2 minutes before we hit that hour mark. If we go a couple of minutes over, it's okay. The one thing I wanted to ask you about that I didn't ask you yet is about your school visits. How'd you get started doing that? What do you do when you go to a school?
Okay. Well, of course, a lot of it has changed again, as the world has. But I had one or two visits that was kind of like related to, okay, well, this is Ava's dad, and he actually does this full time, and so he's gonna tell you a little bit about what a cartoonist does. And the librarian up at my daughter's school, she had the foresight to bring one of the school board members, and say, you really need to hear this guy. Well, that was what opened the door, because then she got me into several elementary schools, several middle schools, because she said, I guess I'm kind of hyper, and I'm definitely hyper in front of the kids, and so they're following me around, and I'm making sure they draw with me, and I'm showing them how very, very basic shapes, circles, squares, they can very quickly become these iconic characters that we all know and love. And I'll change it to whoever I happen to be talking to. If it's a classroom full of kindergartners, that's going to be a little different than third graders. Yeah. Coming up with names, I'll say, okay, if you're one of those people that you have trouble coming up with a cool name, I said, take and I'll say like kitchen table, and then let's start unscrambling kitchen table and come up with these really crazy words, you know. And I've done that before, and for monsters, or you know, take one word from a character that from a movie you like, you know, like Indy or Luke or something, and you know, borrowing certain things. Like obviously, if you look at Blue Scar, you've got Hagar's helmet, you've got He-Man's sword, you've got Conan's underpants. It's just, you know, constant. So I talked to them about that, and usually word of mouth. You know, our teacher or librarian will say, "Hey, you know, Jamie came and visited," and so then what I would do is I would create an order form, and I'd say, "Here's Zucchini the Snowman. Here's marinara," and I would give them like 2 or 3 weeks. They would send that home with them, and the parents would write me a check. You know, I'll just make it out to Jamie Cosley, and so I'd say, "Okay, well, I'll draw a picture," you know, because I didn't think I was going to sell that many. Well, one school visit, I sold 138 books.
Wow.
138 books. And I mean, and at that time, I wasn't even doing the Star Wars stuff because it's a big deal to us, but little kids don't care what your title is. They just want to see you draw.
Yeah.
And they want to be excited about that and create. And so, yeah, it just kind of snowballed. And one time I went to a school for a week, and they paid me with grant money.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So it really, I was like, wow, this is, you know, and that's when the sales came in. It's like, look, I can teach kids. This is what I can teach. And the main thing is, can you teach kids passion? You know, because we're passionate. Like we can talk about this all day long. Yeah. And usually if a kid will see that or hear that, then it's like, oh man, I want to make my own. And you know, I had a little kid come up to me one time. He's probably 7 years old. And he said he just started his own company. I was like,
I've had kids say that to me.
That's how you do it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's great. All right, well, I'm gonna let you get going. The one thing I do want to say, and this happens a lot of times when I talk to other cartoonists, not only was it entertaining for me, I hope it was entertaining for the people watching, but it was very inspiring. It makes me want to stop and go and draw right now. You know, it's fun talking, but I was like, my hands, I didn't know what to. I had this little slinky thing I got here. I was playing. My hand needed something to do, otherwise I would have just kind of went off drawing, you know. Excuse me. So I want to thank you for giving me that feeling. It's fantastic when we get guests on here that are so energized and passionate about what they do. It comes through in their voices, and it excites the host of it as well. So I want to thank you for that. I'm going to put you backstage for a minute and do my closing, and then I just want to talk to you backstage for a few minutes. All right. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Go visit and like Jamie Cosley's Instagram, Twitter, wherever he is on social media. Go like, and when the Blue Scar comes out, find it, buy one. All right, guys. All right. So thanks everyone who joined. I'm going to be coming back at 3 o'clock with Keith Tucker, who was a storyboard artist and worked on things like Transformers, Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, all this fun stuff. A really awesome guy. So I'll be back at 3 o'clock talking with him. Please tune in. It'll be on the YouTube, my YouTube page at Michael Gracia, and on the Incredicon HV on Facebook. All right. So thanks guys for tuning in, and I'll see you later.